All right, guys. You ready to talk a little bit about the handicap system? No, nothing wrong with it, right? Just it just is what it is. Take it at face value. Take it literally. We good? All right.
I'm ready to blow it up, baby.
Let us heads. We are back with another edition of Please Let Us Golf, the podcast. Today, you got Goldy, you got Adam, you got Jule. How are we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Doing good, man. I am just super jacked up to absolutely light the handicap system on fire.
Mr. Jule,
Ah,
how are we doing?
I can't wait to hear Adam light it up too. I know he's ready. He's chomping at the bit. We got a lot of good topics to talk about.
I'm going to break all the podcasting rules right up front, breaking the fourth wall. So I'm on a back to back. I just did a guess right before we did this. I'm going out of town for a couple weeks, so we're trying to have a couple pods in the chamber. I'm on the backside of a little bit of a cold, so if I'm sounding nasally, look, you're just gonna have to bear with it. It just is what it is. But we're powering through. I said it on the other pod, so I got as much medication in me as legally possible to still articulate a thought. So no fancy intro, no soliloquy by Goldy. As sad as that makes me to start. Adam, you
I,
got
I,
something?
I, I was just gonna say, I think you're kind of like throwing that out there. It seems like whenever you got a golf trip coming up, and either if it's with Jewel or if it's with Mr. Golfberg, it's like, oh my wrist has been bothering me, or I've got sinus issues, and it's like you're already trying to game the handicap system. It sounds like. I
Well,
mean,
well, that is a really good tie-in, and I do appreciate it. I think that's more of a mental health disorder I have. I think these ailments are real. I just think they just come up when I'm looking forward to something because the body just shuts down on me. But guys, before we jump into the handicap system, because I'm not gonna, hey, like if you're coming into this, we're not just gonna go, Gin sucks. Like we're gonna do this properly. We're gonna walk through the history. I uncovered a lot of stuff I didn't know. We're going back to the 17th century and working our way up to present day. But let's do a little icebreaker. Get us talking. So all the rave and golf right now. You can thank our friends over at Foreplay. This whole LPGA Pro versus a scratch male golfer debate. They're going to do a series where they're going to have a quote LPGA Pro. I don't know who that is. Go up against a male scratch golfer. And look, my whole thing on this, guys, is it's silly. I would say first and foremost, maybe it could be interesting, but it's like no, I don't. Nobody with a straight face who plays golf would say a scratch male golfer is anywhere near the league of an LPGA professional. But I'm going to tease it out and cede the floor to you guys. I'll say, however, given the right conditions, pending on who the LPGA player is, because Nelly Corda is not the same as the 123rd ranked player on the tour. Because when you start getting there, you got driving averages of 235. If it is a scratch, and when we say scratch, I'm assuming we're meaning a 0.0 index golfer. Even that is a loaded statement. But if they can hit it 280 plus, yeah, if they played 10 rounds at if they did 9 rounds as an exercise, 3 at 6,000, 6,600, and 7,200 yards, I think one or two of the rounds the male scratch golfer could be competitive. I'll leave it there for my other takes. Thoughts?
no, I was gonna go kind of down the same route. I mean, yeah, I think all things relative. Probably, yeah, the LPGA golfer is gonna get the scratch golfer 9 times out of 10, but it's very course dependent too. Where like the typical LPGA golfer doesn't hit the ball super high, so depending on, like you said, course conditions, what type of course it is, maybe the scratch golfer sneaks one out. But I mean, once they get inside, if you just put this typical scratch golfer against the LPGA golfer inside, 150 yards, like, I mean, I would take the LPGA golfer 10 out of 10 times probably.
Yeah,
Jewel,
I agree. I think the same. So
you're
this
you're
might
a
be a boring
you're
conversation.
a resident girl dad. You got to ride for the ladies here.
Yeah, they absolutely I'd take them 10 out of 10 as well. I think there's so many ifs about, the scratch golfer too. There's so many 0.0s that are vanity 0.0s, so you gotta pick the right one, right? And then even on a bad day for an LPGA tour player, they're still hitting, like what do they average, like 75% fairways? And your
Yeah.
typical amateur is around 45 to 50. So let's take them somewhere where it's a penal rough, and we put them into a, you know, competitive event. They're not accustomed to playing in these things like the LPGA Tour players are, and I think that's a big thing too that we're just that they're probably not talking about on Instagram and Twitter where these conversations are being had. I don't think it's a real conversation. I think you take 30 outings with a scratch golfer in an LPGA Tour event, and a scratch golfer could probably clip them 2 to 3 times max.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think scratch is the weird thing. I mean, I get why you would start there. Definitely would be much more interesting if you got into the legit plus two, three handicaps. I think it's not as simple as two or three strokes. Like the floor and ceiling changes dramatically because I think that's one thing. Like we play with some good players, but when you play with like legit plus like four handicap golfer, the difference is like Adam, a guy in our group we play with, right? Like if we go play four times, he's going to shoot 72, 70, but the other round's going to be 66, 68. Like that's his window, him playing bad. Where it's like I could play off a plus one or even a plus two, and I could shoot, I'll fire the 68, but I can also shoot the 78 or the 80. So to your point, the whole scratch golfer thing, they're just as likely to fire a 78 and lose by 14 strokes to them as they are as being competitive. I just don't think I think there are I'll take the counter. I don't think it's as much of a slam dunk as everyone who's saying like and again, I ride for women's golf. We're covered. We've had ladies on the program. We're not I just hate it because it's like I don't want to do the comparison because like it's nothing good is going to come out of it. Like if it is more competitive than it should be, or it's like and to Adam said, but then it's like people are going to be critical if they pick a cupcake course and it's 6,200 yards and then it's too easy. It's like I don't know what the right solution is to actually test this theory out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thought experiment is not necessarily, scratch golfer versus LPGA, but like at what level do you get? Is it plus four for a male? Is it plus five? Like what, like plus three? Like
well,
what's the equivalent
Well,
to
maybe
an
that'd be
LPGA?
interesting. I don't want to do four plays job for them, but you start at scratch and you start at 6,300 yards. And if it's a bloodbath over an episode or two, you amp it up. Like you go, okay, we're going to give you a plus versus a plus two now. We're going to like where does that line get drawn? But again, I still go back to so much has to do with the course they choose, especially for the ladies game. I don't want to just regurgitate what Adam said, but I think we're thinking of Nelly and we're thinking of like the top tier, but the majority, even on the LPGA tour, like Adam said, they hit it pretty low with not a lot of spin. So if you get if you get certain courses, I think they could get exposed. But then on the flip side, if it gets too hard, everyone defaults to we'll put it at 7,200 yards. I'm not sure if that's a guaranteed slam dunk for the guy then. Like I would almost rather it be 6,000 yards and just take the risk that my driver's good that day cuz at least then I can have like chippy wedges into a lot of greens for some birdies. If it's 7,200 yards and I'm hitting 180 yards into par fours, I don't know how much of advantage I have at that point. If they're hitting a 3 wood and I'm hitting a 6 iron, they're probably beating my ass. But maybe if they're hitting like a 9 iron or 7 iron and I'm hitting a gap or a 60 degree, maybe I can compete.
I go back to the whole tournament tested atmosphere, like there's anytime this would happen, there's gonna be a lot of
I,
cameras and there's just gonna be a lot of pressure. And a
I
lot of
think
the
you're
guys that are
underestimating
playing
how much guys hate women too. No, you're right. That's the thing. Like you can get these guys on camera and you get like you. I'm not saying I couldn't shoot 86 if I was like nervous. Like your driver just goes haywire and you hit 14 balls out of bounds. So I don't know. Should they do a match or stroke play? Oof.
I
I
Ah,
mean,
think
I think it would be more fun to see stroke play because of the differential,
it
but
it would
match would make the
it would
most
benefit
sense.
it would benefit the pro in stroke play for sure.
Yeah.
maybe they do Stableford, like Tahoe, where Annika's just absolutely just
No, see
destroying guys out
that's a
there.
good so it's weird. Annika, one of the best of all time, but she's older now, but she plays in it the last 4 or 5 years, and she finishes in the top 10. I think this year I saw she finished, like, 7th or something like that. But is that a interesting comp of, okay, the top 10, 15 males of that field are, like, scratch to +3 handicaps. She's one of the GOATs. I know she's not a competitive.
Why is she in this tournament? I don't get it. I think
Oh, she
it's
won her band?
disgusting. Yeah, I
She's a
do.
celebrity
Yeah,
now.
no. I mean, I don't know, let's put Jack,
Put
I
Jack in
But
it?
yeah,
Jack,
let's put
Dude,
Jack in.
I think it's
you gonna
walking
put him in a
only, dude. I
wheelchair?
don't yeah, dude.
Jeez.
Hey, Barb.
Was Annika's
Let
son playing in
let's
it?
no, hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Let's put all right. The better comp is let's put Bernard Longer out there.
No, yeah.
Let's get him out there just
Guys,
waxing guys.
yeah, he's clearing 100 points on the Stableford. So,
And then
I don't
Jack
know.
can use his putter as a cane.
You know what's so the yeah, exactly. You know, I'll just say this, like, I don't know, like, any take you have, you just it's a lose-lose. Because if you say anything that says, like, obviously the LPGA Pro isn't gonna win, you don't really know a lot about golf, but also if you try to even make it an interesting conversation, it could come off as like, "What do you hate? You hate women? You don't respect," it's like, you don't wanna do that either, but I guess we'll see it. I guess, I got a feeling, like, even with some of these rigs versus matches where they're like 3 and 4 indexes, is like, man, these guys are like country club 3 indexes, right? Like, they're not 32-year-olds hitting the ball 300 yards who literally have 69 in the bag 3 indexes. They're optimized 3 indexes, and like you said, not all scratches are created equal. And that's probably an accidental perfect segue into our topic of tonight, guys. Maybe that's our title. Not all scratch golfers are created equal. So let's dive into the handicap system. So, I was wondering, do we want to tee up any opinions before we get into it? But there's so much to unpack here. And guys, we're going to go century by century. So let us heads get your thinking caps on, get your listening ears on, get nasally Goldy coming through. Just deal with it because we're going back to the 17th century. Okay.
This is
the,
pre-Kobe paradox.
this is pre Kobe paradox. This is way before it. We will get to that. But the early days, 17th century going in the 18th century, the concept of handicapping or adjusting scores to even out competition dates back to the earliest days of golf with informal methods of giving and receiving strokes. Literally, the research uncovered, these guys were determining at their club, at their matches, before they went off, what they thought a fair amount of strokes would be or holes would be given whatever style of golf they were playing. And it's funny, I don't want to bury the lead, but I think my opinion at the end is like these guys in the 1700s just had it right. Like, handicaps need to be localized, and you just determine what you think makes sense based on the knowledge you have right then. It was a true gentleman's agreement. But as time went on, Mr. Thomas Kincaid, a medical student at Scotland's University of Edinburgh, he was the first one to kind of pen some thoughts on handicapping. And he's got some lengthy quotes. You can go look them up, do your own research, but we're going to have to do enough talking through here. But he also talked about the need to maybe formalize a system that everyone went on, and we're going to get into why that is as we get into the popularity of golf into the 18th and 19th century. It went from this local club to where we're doing tournaments, we're doing inter-club matches. So it wasn't just Adam, Jule, and Goldy know each other, and this asshole I'm giving you one aside. Adam's showing up down at North Berwick saying like, "Oh yeah, man, whatever." I can't do a Scottish accent on the fly, but Adam's sandbagging down there. So we had original sandbaggers, OGs. But hey, little trivia. The word handicap though wasn't around there, but it did derive from an old pub game there called Hand in Cap. Honestly, I tried to figure out a way, like, how could you consolidate this into making sense? You kind of just have to read it. But basically, it was a game where two parties and a referee had to agree to some kind of bet or a barter or a value on something. And it was in a hat. And two guys literally pull their hands out, and you either have a closed fist or an open fist if you agree or not. And based on whether or not you agree, it's like who won the. It was complicated, but that's where it came from. Hand and cap it was really like an integrity based pub game, and I guess in a way that's kind of what handicaps are. But we go into the 19th century, guys. This is when, yeah, I would say like the word handicapping has entered the chat for modern terms. Golf scaling rapidly across the UK. These tournaments are going on. People are getting super pissed off. And go figure, you know who penned an op-ed? The bad golfers. Let me read this to you. It's probably the OG sandbaggers. Let's just be real. Because at the time, a lot of clubs started adopting. Get this, they took your three best scores of the year, and the average of that was your course handicap against all of the scores at the course's average. So let's say your course has 1,000 rounds that year and the scoring average was 78, and your average of your top three was 72. You were, I guess at the time, a +6 handicap on that course. So
Makes sense.
it
Yeah,
is
so
I love
easy.
it. Let's replace it. Let's start doing this tomorrow.
I mean, chime in, guys, because there's going to be some talking here. But this quote, an open letter penned in a British newspaper said, "Sir, I greatly fear that the system of handicapping is such as to render it highly improbable that any but the best player will win." So this was literally an op-ed penned by a group of bad golfers that were basically saying, hey, your current methodology is basically saying, like, I'm taking your top three scores and your average of it, and better players play to that score far more often than I do as a lesser player. So I'm going to stop there for a second. Adam, I know you chimed in already that you want to revert back to it. Jule, we're in the kind of early 19th century now. What are we feeling about the handicap system?
It feels like a lot of other things. Like it progresses only to progress without reason. Like let's make it more complicated. Let's make it harder for people to understand. When they were pretty close, that feels pretty good. I'd kind of like to take it back.
So you
I did
don't.
want to say one thing that I'm going to poke a hole in is, they take your top 3 scores, right, for the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
So like you could post like your top 3 scores like at the beginning of the year, and then like play absolutely like terrible like all throughout the rest of the year. And so
But
like
I do kind of like the idea, though, that you have like a handicap going into the next golf season, and that's your handicap for the year. So, like, 2025 ends, your best three scores, your average of it, that's your handicap. That's what you're playing off of next year, dude. So,
I think that's why we're at where where
but
we're at.
I
It's
don't know.
like
Couldn't you argue that
that is, and now folks, that is where sandbagging started right there.
That's
it,
right.
it, it
Yeah.
it did? But think about how much harder it was then, because that back then you had to like validate scores with, like an actual score, a validator. This was a lot of club golf. So, it was kind of like, I think you could probably get called out or ostracized pretty quick if you fuck around, find out back in the handicap system back then. And it's like when I first read this, my initial inclination was three's insane. Maybe three is insane, but I kind of like the logic behind, this is my course's scoring average. This is how I performed on this course relatively to it. That is what I am. Now you're going to other courses. Well, now you have to understand what the scoring averages of those courses are. And that leads us, we're going to get there, into rating and slope and all that. But yeah, so a lot of this was driven by, this drove to a common sentiment that we need a standard or centralized authority in golf to address competition, because that's really where all the headache was coming in on the handicap front. So let's
I thought you
fast
were going to
forward.
say a lot of this was driven by Sir Mike Davis of the 17th century.
Yeah, so it's probably not far off. But early 20th century, USGA 1911. So they established a process where handicaps were based on the average of a player's best three scores. And Mr. Leighton Calkins, pretty much the pioneer of handicapping, quote, the principal feature of this system is that not only is the good player handicapped because he is a good player, but the bad player is also handicapped because he is a bad player. And the object of handicapping is to put all players on the same level. So, what did he do? He introduced club handicapping committees, the course rating, and the handicap index. So the course rating, let's be clear before we get confusing and talk about slope and all that, this was a measure of what we call a scratch golfer, a zero point zero index is expected to shoot at a golf course. So for the first
But what is a scratch golfer?
so that they modified an index, a formula of, now they still started with the players' three best scores, but over a 6-year period that went from quickly to 10 best scores out of 50, and then 10 out of 25, and then 10 out of 20, and then we'll lead into where we're at today. So it modified a lot over the next couple decades, and that's what really the rating was based off of. But there was a flaw because when they went to rate golf courses too, when you're talking about the difficulty for a scratch golfer, they recognize that heavily weighted um, length as like a critical criteria of how hard a golf course was.
And that's where
So
slope came in.
that is where slope came in of like, well, how do we have this more accurate for the knock on wood, the bogey golfer? So are you noticing a trend here? We have a handicap system to address competition. It's going. The bogey golfer says it's unfair, so we make changes. And as we make changes to accommodate the bogey golfer, we open up two
They
or
were
three more
they were
issues.
just trying to grow the game back then, okay? I mean, we gotta get these bogey golfers in there. We're growing it.
It's an inclusive
So
sport in one way.
yeah, it's yeah, really. We just keep placating to the lesser quality golfer. No, so evolution and improvements. We talked about the how many minimum rounds qualify. It went from 50 to 25 to 20. It was 10 of your last whatever. But then the slope system came in. It started in the 70s. It was fully adopted by the time we got into the mid to late 80s. And it did what we said. It said course rating wasn't good enough. We have to have an alternative measurement that took all these other challenges into account that were harder for the bogey golfer. Maybe a short force carry, maybe a bunker that shouldn't be in play but is, maybe a hazard that really shouldn't be in play but is more in play for the lesser golfer. And it took, it took into account all these things. So that's pretty much where we were at up until we got to 2020 and the world handicap systems. Before I get there, guys, we just kind of blew through the 19th to 20th century. Anything before we get into the current state?
It feels like a double handicapping system when we added slope. We're handicapping for the bogey golfers.
Yeah, so it is weird because and it's still to this day, people, because there's still a rating and a slope on the golf scorecard, and depending on what your index is how much like that impacts how much of it is the rating basis versus the slope basis. So fast forward to 2020, pre-COVID, but it came on right with COVID. Go figure. The World Handicap System came into effect because we're kind of being U.S. bias here with USGA handicapping. There was a ton of handicap systems all over the world. Most of them were pretty similar, but there wasn't one global body. And of course, nothing says, super villain like a global conglomerate fixing the handicap system. So in 2020, they aim to standardize the calculations globally. You know it as today. Obviously, you know about the GIN where you put your handicap in. We went to 8 rounds of our last 20 qualify, our 8 best. So it's really more of a measure of your potential as a golfer versus your average play as a golfer. It went back to standardizing some ideas of rating and slope. And, and then we go into the system we are in today. So, guys, a lot of talking for me, and I know we have takes on the handicap system. I just wanted to tee it up with this. with all that being said, I could summarize it as we want a literal exact solution for something that A doesn't need it and B is impossible to do. I'll kind of withhold a couple takes on that, but I'll cede the floor. Adam or Jule, jump in, spit roast the handicap system, or ride for it.
Oh man, where do I start? I literally don't know where to start. Do I start with course rating? Do I start with slope? Maybe
Or
both.
slope.
Like, I mean, well, I think both. Like, I think one of the big problems is like course to course, like these course ratings and slopes make no sense. Like, I know the courses that we play around here, they don't make any sense. That's another thing. Like, who is coming up with the course rating and the slope? Who's doing this?
So they would argue they have people for the USGA and that World Handicap System that are certified to come out to do these things. And they have a spreadsheet that they're supposed to say this tree is 22 yards off the fairway and this bunker's here. And it gives you a composite score. I roll my eyes at it because I don't see them actually going like when they re-rate a course, it's just the same rating 99% of the time as it was before. And to your point, slope and rating. I know, Julie, you want to talk about slope. That's if I had one heartburn of why it's ludicrous to take a handicap index literally, is because as a golfer who's played enough golf around this world, none of it makes sense. It is not consistent. And like it's not like it's 5 shots off, but it's enough off to where a +1 somewhere and a 3 somewhere might be the exact same thing.
Yeah, it is ludicrous. Slope doesn't make any sense, and the problem is that they don't update it except for every 10 years. And unless you make adjustments to the course, like moving tee boxes back or adjusting greens from Bermuda to bent, or the other way around, I don't think that's enough time. I mean, I know every year would be too many resources, but every 3 to 5 seems a little more um, realistic if we're going to have everything based off of slope and rating. So, for example, we just played Erin Hills last year, probably the hardest golf course I ever played. 145 on slope. My the country club I am a member at 141. There's no way. It just
Yeah.
doesn't make much sense. You know what I mean? And I also think that the rating, like the rubric is ridiculous. What is it, 55 to 155? Nobody understands that. Why can't we
Yeah.
just at least make it simple? Like this is already hard calculus to get to an index, and now we're adding in this equation from 155 to
Yeah,
55, dividing
at
it
least
into one
rating.
113 or whatever.
Yeah, like you said, at least rating, whether it's accurate or not is a debate, but at least it's simple. Like you can go like, oh, it's 74.5 and I'm a 0. So I'm a 2.5 or I'm a 2 handicap or 3 handicap on the scores. But slope, it's just a concept that seems unnecessarily complicated. Or that could they not normalize it to par? You know what I mean? Like this, like I get it. It's the one like do something to weight it to where it's relative to the par of the course. And the old let's take a cue from the old system. I don't I think scores logged at your round should be an input annually into how accurate your rating might be. Of like, okay, and I know that's loaded because people could put in fake scores and all that. We could talk about that, but at least as like some kind of marker to go like, oh, this course is consistently zero indexes. It's my home course 73.3 rating, and zero indexes on some percentage beyond what they should are shooting 73 or lower. So maybe that it's not 73.3 or the inverse. They're shooting 76.2 and like we would think the scoring average should be 75.3. Like I don't like that the outcomes of the rounds are not a part of the course calculus. So it's just some like you said once a decade spreadsheet that somebody's probably checking the box on.
And that's great. That's a great point because I mean, even simple technology could kick out scores that are too far away from standard deviation and from the mean, and just kick those
Yeah.
out. And that seems like a really good, realistic way of putting together a course rating.
Yeah. What about
You know,
Adam?
I was just gonna say, and I may be over my skis on this. So like you're trying to get your differential right, and part of that is like you have to ensure that your adjusted gross score is correct. So, and that's dependent on ensuring that hole by hole, the handicap of the hole is correct, right?
Right.
And so, like, that's a whole nother can of worms where, like, not only are we looking at course rating and slope, but like, did we even? And I can't tell you how many courses I play where I'm like, this is the number one handicap hole. This is it.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, so it's just like you've got all these variables, and man, we haven't even talked about PCC, but like when we were talking about course rating, something that came up in my brain is like the courses that we play where, man, they play so much like harder when you have like dormant Bermuda versus I don't know, non-dormant Bermuda.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that gets into, I mean, it's not even really calculated into the PCC. That's more, weather conditions, but there's just so many other variables that aren't like, truly calculated. And so,
Well, and
I,
so you bring that up, and you have these different rules by state or by regional association too. Like some areas you can't put scores in on the off months, and then like for us we can, and and that's kind of like professional management of your handicap because you just know if you play winter golf in the southeast, those courses are going to be a shot or two harder, just like you said, because the conditions. So it's one way to enter the year with a little bit higher handicap. So pro tip. But let's like think about again the root of why there needs to be handicap because Golfberg's not on here tonight, but he's had that like why do we don't even need him, but they needed him in the 17th and 18th century because competitions and people want it to be competitive. But I'm really netting out at like I will not play in a competition in which strokes are given. Um, Now, if you need to use my handicap to put me in a flight, and that flight has a 5, 6, 7 stroke variance, either as an individual or as a two-man team, I'm good with it. If I'm on the back end of that or the front end of it, it's it's just golf. Like, let's roll the ball on the blacktop and go play and see what happens. But this whole like I'm giving you a shot and a 9-hole match and a member or a member guess because you happen to be maintaining a handicap that's 1.1 when if it was 1.0 you wouldn't get a shot on this hole, but now you're getting a fucking shot in a 9-hole. I'm like, get out of here, clowns. I mean, and really, and Adam, you brought up a great point of you want to talk about the inaccuracy of the rating or slope of the course. The inaccuracy of the rate or the course handicap of which holes are the most difficult is asinine. So, like, anytime I even go to bet with somebody, we just go, I mean, if it's your home club, it's easy, like, here's the shot holes, right? But we go like, we're going to figure out the shot holes. Like, no, you're not getting a shot hole on 18 on the 400-yard par four. Like, makes no sense. It's going to ruin the bet. Like, do you really need one on this par five? You might. If you're playing with an older guy who's a good player and hits at 230, that might make sense. But yeah, like if I'm playing with a guy who hits at 290 and it's a 530-yard par five, I don't care what the course says this difficulty is. We're going to have a gentleman's agreement, 17th, 18th century style of we're going to just see what's fair. Because I don't want to fleece anyone either, too. I'm the king of giving strokes. You take whatever you think you need, but if I think you're lying, I'm just never going to play with you again.
so I don't know if we're gonna get into like recommendations for improvement, but
Do it.
so I almost feel like there needs to be like two separate handicap systems. I know we're getting even like more convoluted, but like I think you need like for the serious golfer who's going to be playing your members, your member guests, or whatever tournaments. I think for those guys, like I know the UK does it this way where once you get done with your round, you literally have to go to the pro shop and like turn in your scorecard and it has to be validated by like one or two people, and then the pro inputs into the system. Like I think that's for like the serious handicap system, and then for just your casual golfer that wants to play a game against some good buddies. I think it makes sense, almost like what we do, where I take long periods of time off from playing golf, and I show up to the first tee box, and it's like, oh, what is Adam? And it's like, well, he's
It's a
probably
loaded statement.
yeah. Could be anywhere from a 6 to a 15.
Yeah.
But usually it's like, yeah, he's floating between that 8 to 10. So how about we'll set him at a 9, and then once we get through the first 9, we'll adjust as we need to. If he's like in his pocket and like literally wiping it
Dude,
off the face of the planet, then
that's good 17th, 18th century golf right
that's
there,
what I'm
man.
saying, man. I think I've solved this. I mean, case closed, right?
I really
Yeah,
don't think it's an issue for if you're a reasonable human for like what you're talking about. But Jewel, like, I don't know what you're about to get into. The problem comes when you're outside of your friend group or outside of your local club.
yeah, I ran into it yesterday. Somebody hadn't played in 2 months, and they're a 3, and they're on my team, and they played like shit, and, didn't even come close to playing to a 3, and there's gotta be some type of weight of how many rounds you're logging. I do like the old school method of just 3 rounds. That's your peak. That is what you're able to play to, but if it's been 9
Um,
months, like,
yeah.
if it had been 2
That
months ago for me, I'm not playing to a 0, I'm
Uh,
playing to a
That's
5.
one of the big things that I hate, like for me personally, where it takes your 8 best of your last 20 rounds. My last 20 rounds could be like from over 5 years.
That's
I mean,
right.
That's
like,
but I will say the thing I do like about it is even though there's a ton like, I get it. It locks you in for a year for those 3 scores, but it's kinda like, how much do you like golf, dog? Like, do you wanna grind and, like, be able to play at that level, or do you wanna take 3 months off like Adam and then come out there and get waxed and then pen a ghost pen or whatever they call it, a pseudonym to the local British tabloids of this is outrageous. Why did I do that? This is outrageous. This is how the British sounded. No, but man, I go back to this. I think again, the core problem is we're solving something that isn't solvable because the only solutions would go back to something they're not going to do. Like, are you going to go back to at the first tee? You have to declare, is this a handicap round or not? And then you have to turn that scorecard in, and it has to be signed by a the player and the scorer, the validator, turned into the club. Like they're not going to go back to that.
But they
And
should.
and
Like, when I was a kid, we turned in every single scorecard. Like, the '90s, every scorecard had to be turned in, like Adam was saying, and who's to say old Johnny shoots a 90 and he has 4 eights, but he doesn't spread those eights out across multiple holes because he knows a double bogey is max. Like, he's smart enough, he knows he's getting his 90, but he's not gonna
yeah,
get it calculated for if he has 4 snowmen, like, there has to be some kind of validation, and this is a integrity game. There's not enough people with high integrity playing this game. There's a bunch of degenerates, and they're out there
you know,
sandbagging.
but you know what's also frustrating, as true as that is, technology could fix a lot of this because even you and I, we play in some pretty big, like relatively big, like two-man events, at least big to where there's enough money and enough good players. And almost all of them use Golf Genius. And they could mandate that you're going to publish score for everybody in the field, but they won't do it because they say, "Oh, well, if someone picked up on a hole, this," and I don't want to steal this bit. That guy, the Yip Stickler or whatever his name is, who calls people out on handicaps. I saw him on a friend of the program's pod, and I didn't even realize USGA and the World Handicap System has a provision for this of expected score. So if you're in a two-man best ball and because of pace or whatever, you scoop a ball, it will show you what your expected score is for that instead of Xing out and not posting it. It actually mandates that you're supposed to post that score.
nice.
Um, and it's basically all data driven. Like, what is the probability of strokes from where you're at to hole out, right? So if you scoop the 3 footers, oh, I didn't put it. It's like, well, they're going to give it to you. But if it's an 8 footer, they're probably going to say it was a 2 putt. It's kind of those kind of things. If you were chipping, there's these provisions of what your score would be. And it might not be perfect, but at least would avoid. I can't tell you how many times guys play tournament rounds, and you see the scorecard where they got some threes, but then it's just blank X's because they pick up on the hole, and it's like, well, damn, they still would have shot probably one under, and they're playing off a 4 handicap in this tournament, like they should have to post that. So but it does go back to like you really only need it for tournament golf. I don't even know if you need it for your friendly competitions because again, 90% of times you play, you're playing with people you know. And if there's an outlier, if somebody's that scummy, you're just never going to play with them again. If someone comes and says they're an 8, you're like, I've played it. Look, an 8 handicap, I get it, could shoot 75, but you know when it's like janky and they sank two 34-footers and a kick off the tree versus the sound it made off the club face and the like the
And then
difference.
we make him put his hand in the cap and he
Yes.
loses his hand.
Yes, if we forgot to go back to the handed cap system. So I mean, guys, I again, I think we're solving something that doesn't need to be solved. I'll go back to the literalness that we and we're bad too, right? When you're playing good and your index goes low and you see it, you're like, "Oh, I'm a plus whatever," or I hit my low. I'm a 5.2 golfer now. I'm a 9.7." And there is something cool about that, but also it's like what it doesn't mean anything. Like it really doesn't. Like uh the literal application of it. I think I'm not a tennis guy. I've said it before on the pod. I think they have more of a tiering system, and I think that's how you need to view it is like, okay, if you're a +1 to a +5, like you're fair game. Like if you're a 0 to a 5, you're fair game. If you're a 6 to a 10, you're fair game. And I get it. There's those awkward dividing lines of, well, he's a 4 and he's a 6. And if you set a handicap or a tournament there, but it's just kind of like play better. I don't care. Like it's at some point like that's the only reasonable way to bucketize it. And then what? You're going to post flight a tournament? That's a cop out. Everyone knows that's bullshit because the second the good teams aren't 4 under through 6, they just governor it to get into the second flight and they boat race the field. Jule and I were accused of that in a tournament last year, but that was actually weather driven. But
We won.
Sounds
yeah,
legit.
yeah, we read it. We did. We boat race the field. Um, but that's what you get for post flighting it. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's been a pain point for me because I just see it. It just causes so much drama and bullshit. And it's just like they had it right back in the day, man. It's just for all like non-massive event tournament golf. It's just a gentleman's agreement before you go play. It's just simple as that. And then adjust. If somebody's getting their clock clean, adjust on the back nine. If they still get their clock clean, that's just golf. But tournaments, I don't know, maybe Adams or maybe the only thing you need is like handicaps just for tournament play and they got to be official rounds and all that.
I want 3 things, and I don't really wanna change anything. My big thing is, like, simplify a few things. I want scorecards turned back in. I want them to be turned in as an official score. I want every single round teed up as an official round going into a handicap system. And the next is just simplify it. Like, why are we doing what is it? It's uh it's slope divided by median slope plus course rating minus par equals your course handicap. Like that is insane. I mean, most golfers out there don't even understand the window of slope and what the median slope is. Like I didn't know it until a couple of years ago, and I've been playing golf my entire life. So that should say enough.
So I think the only thing I'd push back on that is the idea, though. Did I hear you right at number two that like every time you tee it up, you're posting a score though? Because I don't know about that. Like I play a lot of golf where I don't like want to do that, and I get it that then that impacts your handicap. But if you're not going into the intention, yeah, like I mean, also like I don't think I really don't want other people on the golf course doing that of playing everything out and its rounds are long enough as is. So I don't know that one is the only part that I would have some question. I think there has to be like a designation of I'm opting into like a tournament round or not. And if you are, then yeah, it's USGA stroke play govern rules. No double bogey scoopers, even though that's another complication because they're going to max you at double based on your handicap and the handicap of the holes for your They don't call it equitable stroke control anymore, but they still do a similar thing. So, I mean, you could have a 12 on a hole, but it's not going to, for handicap purposes, let you take it anyways. So, I don't know.
All right. Well,
Adam?
I
Yeah.
can ride.
Hey,
I can ride with that. Like, just tell when you check in for your round. All right, this is a handicap round. My
Mm-hmm.
daughter's not with me today.
Yeah. That's a handicap round. But then do you have to have someone playing with you?
I mean,
Do
this
you,
has to be an integrity game.
Adam.
yeah. Hey, we haven't even brought this up, but like this insane system that we are so fortunate to use from the USGA, we get to purchase it also for the nice price of $60 a year. And I thought it was, I almost turned off the US Open. Like they were pushing the USG, they were pushing the GIN system for everybody to get a handicap down my throat.
Yeah.
And it was, it's just gross, man. Like, why do I pay $60 for you to maintain my handicap?
Yeah, dude. USGS big business. You just said some things in there though, Adam, too, that maybe like I don't want to belabor the point because I think everybody has plenty of stories on sandbaggers and this. I'm not here to dox anybody because I don't want to get the yip stickler guy on me and start looking at, hey, you had a couple suspicious entries in 2023 before a tournament. I'm like, hey, dude, like, come on, man, we all operate in the gray area, bro. But it is funny though because I don't want to keep talking about rating and slope, but the reason why it's so important and why the system's ludicrous is because literally, I mean, I've seen it with guys that play a course and the back tee is rated at 73 and the one up is 70.9, and they spent a year putting the one up tee, and like that changes their handicap by 2, and then we come and we play 6 months later, and oh, I get a shot aside. I'm like, I'm okay. They can do that, but I'm not. I'm not. I don't got asshole written on my forehead usually. Like, nah, dog. Like, no. And I still go back to, if you're within a couple shots of someone, like, have some personal pride. Like, do you really want to be getting a shot? Like, like for us, like Golfberg's not on here. He's playing better now, so I'm playing with him this week, so we'll see. I might be straight up. But like if we get to a point where like he's playing off of a 4 and I'm playing off a 0 or a 1, I'm like, let's start with one aside. If the front 9 goes bad, we'll bump it up. But if not, like that seems, once you get to 4 or 5 shots, okay, we can look at a shot. But God, have some integrity. Like you're a 3 and I'm a 1, give me one aside. I'm like, dog, come on. Why don't you grind a little today? Because I do it all the time. I mean, on the flip side, I play with guys a shot or two better than me, and they're never in a million years be like, "Oh, well, I know you're a +1 and I'm a +3, so I'm gonna give you a shot aside." I was like, "That's not how that shit's ever gonna work." So I don't know. Adam, what you're smiling at me?
I'm just no. You're a man of integrity, and I respect it. You are one of the few, sir.
Sounds
Oh
like a
God,
Marine.
yes,
God, word cloud's going to include integrity in the middle.
yeah, heck yeah. That's right next to "Please let us golf" right when you Google it. So Jule,
So, hey,
hey, I got,
let me ask you
yeah,
this. This was on
okay.
my brain. Why does like less yards automatically mean like it's easier? You know, like the course rating being lower. Because
I
I
mean,
don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, you can, like if you're a long hitter and you go down a tee, like you can put yourself in some, maybe places that you don't want to
yeah.
be, as opposed to if you were like at the tips where there's not much. I don't know.
No, yeah, I
I mean,
think it's just another complication of it, right? Of like that was again, think about the people trying to do good. Rating came out to be like, okay, we finally have a universal way of what a scratch golfer should shoot, and you're all based off of that. And then people said, wait a sec, this is accurate for like a small subset of the golfers, but it's still not reflective of my experience as like a 10 or a 20 or a 30. So they develop slope. But then it's like, well, but different things are harder for different golfers. Like, are you a 7 handicap because you're 52 and hit it 220? or are you a 7 handicap and you're 24 to hit it 290, but you're just erratic and haven't refined other parts of the game? So yeah, again, we're trying to get a perfect science for something that is an art, and I I think that's what it all comes back to, is there's just
It
not a good solution for it.
it was already solved 200 years ago.
I think
I
it
mean,
was. Maybe they
I
start.
I say we bring it back. Can we start operating under the Kobe handicap system? I don't know what we call it, but I mean,
I mean, or you just show up and play. Like,
yeah, today I think I'm a 12. What are you?
no, there's or
Lower
not.
back's hurting.
It's just
I'm
golf.
sick.
Like,
Yeah, I've
just
had some sinus issues and wrist issues. So
I have. We'll see. What do you think is
Aaron's
going to
gonna
happen,
catch it.
by the way? Yeah, this will post after the trip, so maybe it's not a good use of time. But yeah, I mean, I'm going out to his home turf, different grasses, playing chambers. I mean, look,
Pacific
dude.
Northwest. You're in his territory.
I don't
He's
know, but
playing good golf.
he does seem
man,
scared that he keeps talking about, like, playing this in the dead of summer is just so high. The high's like 79, and, he's like, "It's just but there's no shade out there." I'm like, "Dude, it's 103 here with a heat index of
he
115."
he came down to Georgia and literally almost died on the course. I mean, almost had
Carry a
heat
towel
exhaustion.
in his back pocket.
Yeah, that's a look. Oh, gentlemen. All right. I'm pretty much out of my takes on the handicap system, but this was cathartic. We've been meaning to do it for a while. We can always revisit it. Maybe our friend Yip Stickler will see this and start auditing all of us. So we might bite off more than we could chew. But anything else? Going once.
Hey, you know what?
Yep.
I'm thankful for the handicap system.
Wow.
Save that for the Thanksgiving pod, dude.
I'm thankful that we actually get to put ourselves on the same playing field in a way as the pros and get to watch them on TV and be like, you know what? I could play them today. I could go play Roy today. I mean, he shot 200 today. I could have shot +3. We'd be close. He'd give me a couple shots. 8.
So to tie
I,
Probably would have beat him today.
I
yeah.
thought you were going to say that you were thankful for the handicap system because it allows Mr. Goldy to kind of get a couple shots. Whenever you guys play together, you guys do a match that you kind of give him a couple shots aside.
somehow somehow my handicap's usually like a half a stroke better than Jules, but he beat me 90% of the time. So I got vanity handicap issues, or we might need to do some auditing on his slope and rating at his courses. But you talk about it, looping it back into our initial topic. What is an LP? Because women, that's another thing we didn't talk about. That this drives me nuts. There's a separate handicap for women than there is for men. So the calculus is different. So
Didn't
it's
know
not
that.
just ladies tees, it's literally different. So
It's a different formula.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so
I,
that's a whole
Okay.
nother yeah,
yeah, you,
that's a whole nother podcast. But it's
yeah,
like,
that was
what
a
is an
problem.
LPGA Pro's handicap in men equivalent terms? That's an interesting, because if a PGA Pro is like a +7 on the low end and a +9 as a Scotty, basically, a Scotty or a Rom. I mean, realistically, what is an LPGA Pro? Like a +3? I mean, they're not 2 shots behind them. Like I'm saying? That's where in my head, they're not a scratch golfer, but they're definitely, I think they're a +2, +3 given all things being equal. Yeah, everyone's scared to talk about this
I don't
now
want to
Yeah,
say
yeah.
anything.
I'm
because
yeah.
you're going down your head, like, I mean, it's
Literally was thinking about a dude that I've played with several times up here in Athens, and he's probably a +4. Yeah, I think you give him a run for their money.
yeah, that's probably, I think that's where I honestly think that's where it is, like a legit LPGA Pro versus a +3 to +4 amateur male. Because here's another thing: if you're a +3 or +4, you're not just like 99.99%, unless they were ex-PGA Tour and got their status back. Most of them are playing a ton of golf and still playing a ton of competition. I mean, that's really the biggest dividing line when you get scratching +1s versus 3s and 4s. it's not that's usually it's like, hey, I'm a weekend warrior, and I golf in a tournament every weekend, so that's a big difference. But yeah,
Yeah, and
I
they're
don't know.
pushing the ball down there like 3 to 315, you know?
Yeah, but just not doing as much dumb stuff. So, anyways, we're rambling now. So, Adam, any closing thoughts? Are you good?
I'm good.
Are you grateful for the handicap system?
Can't say that I am. You know, I'm one of those guys that brought in the slope rating, so I want to apologize for that.
Thank you. We accept.
Yeah, but as long as we are all on the same playing field, because nothing says life like that. All right, gentlemen, this was fun. This was cathartic. Lettuce heads. We're gonna see you next week. I don't know what order these pods are gonna post, but we are front loading some because we got a lot of fun travel and tournaments coming up. But we got guests coming, man. You just keep stay plugged, as they say, because we got some fun ones coming up and some good travel. So we'll see you next week. Peace.
Arrivederci.